Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Ahead on our news tonight, marital rape in the suite of legislation the Davis administration is proposing to address issues of human rights. Plus, the grandson of an 84-year-old woman who was allegedly strangled to death speaks. And later, it's 2 years since the Bahamas recorded its first positive case of COVID-19. The former health minister relives the moment. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kendino Knowles. Attorney General Ryan Pinder confirming today that the Davis administration is looking at a suite of legislation to address controversial issues, including marital rape, citizenship, and sex crimes. The AG says it's part of the government's push to properly address human rights issues. Jasmine Brown has our top story tonight.
The AG says addressing those issues is a part of the Davis administration's agenda as it seeks to keep up with its international obligations.
Within that suite of recommended legislation are matters related to gender-based violence, matters related to marital rape, matters related to juvenile offenses, for example. So it's involved in an all-encompassing suite of legislation, which is a human rights legislative agenda.
It's safe to say the Davis administration is moving towards criminalizing it.
It's safe to say that Davis administration are looking at all of our international human rights obligations, which that is one of them, with a mind to becoming compliant with the United Nations requirements.
The AG weighed in on the matter nearly a month after the first ever National Gender-Based Violence Discriminatory Law Review Forum was held. The Nassau Guardian obtained a copy of the report and reported on Monday that participants recommended the criminalization of marital rape, legalization of abortion, and decriminalization of sex work, among other things. The AG was asked about their recommendations.
These issues factor into commitments that the government of the Bahamas, as far back as 2018, have made to the United Nations and other multilateral institutions about legislative matters and other commitments with respect to human rights matters, and in preparation to go before the United Nations Human Rights Council, which is scheduled for February of 2023. And there were a series of recommendations that were committed to.
Pinder also says tackling the issues head-on was long overdue, especially given the fact that former administrations made commitments to international organizations.
So what we have done is we have compiled a list and analysis of a suite of legislation that is going to be required to meet our obligations on human rights matters. It's rather all-encompassing, really broad-based, and we anticipate giving some tutorials to cabinet ministers or information sessions starting as early as this week on it.
Pinder says once cabinet is briefed on all the issues, the next logical step will be informing the public. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Attorney General Ryan Pinder explaining why the corruption case against former Progressive Liberal Party Cabinet Minister Ken Dorset fell apart before it even got started. Pinder says state prosecution could not see eye to eye with the star witness, Jonathan Ash. Dorset was charged in 2017 with extorting $120,000 from businessman Jonathan Ash. He was the first of 3 former PLP parliamentarians who were arrested and accused of abusing their office for financial gain. Former Minister of Labour and National Insurance Shane Gibson and former Senator and Public Hospitals Authority Chairman Frank Smith have both been acquitted. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions issued a nolle prosequi in Dorset's case. And Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville firing back at Free National Movement Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands, who recently called government's relaxation of the mask mandate exclusively on hotel properties hypocritical. Dr. Darville had this to say.
We don't think it's discriminatory. Our EOC made a decision based on the vaccination rate of visitors in our hotels and the testing requirements to enter the country.
The latest COVID rules announced by the Ministry of Health over the weekend says masks are no longer required in a lobby, corridor, or casino of a hotel, or while in an outdoor setting where there is at least 3 feet of space between persons who are not of the same household. The rules further stipulate that businesses are required to deny entry to any persons not wearing a face mask and that employees must also wear masks. Dr. Darville said the decision on the mask mandate was made in the best interest of the greater good.
We believe that even though we said that the mask can be removed, there's no mandatory rule in place that individuals who want to wear masks should not wear masks. And as you go to place, particularly at our tourism centers and hotels, you will see people wearing masks and some not. And so when we look at what's going on in the region, and in order for us not to lose excessive amount of businesses to our competitors, we have to be on the cutting edge and we have to make decisions.
Face-to-face learning at a central Abaco high school will resume this week, and more teachers will be sent to address an ongoing teacher shortage. The news coming from Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin following a protest over a shortage of teachers at Patrick J. Bethel High School. The Education Minister telling our news that her ministry has plans to get the school on track with hybrid learning.
Engagement of teachers is underway through the public service system. But in the interim, we have recruited what we call supply teachers who are trained, experienced teachers, some of whom have already retired, who have agreed to come back. And we expect that during the course of this week, that school will begin for the first time face-to-face instruction in a phased basis, starting with grade 12, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, and then building with the other grades. So this is a great breakthrough for the children and teachers and the community.
Meantime, the Public Managers Union signing an agreement with the Airport Authority, officially making it the bargaining agent for middle managers at the Airport Authority. Union President Cassandra Lewis says some 20 managers are now being represented by the PMU. Lewis says negotiations for an industrial agreement are expected to commence soon.
I would expect the same that all of the other members under which the Public Managers Union represent. And so we'll offer that same coverage for the staff of the Airport Authority, working along with the management team at the Airport Authority.
Negotiations to finalize this agreement have been ongoing for the past year, and Airport Authority Acting General Manager Peter Rutherford called it a banner day, adding that the signing is a symbol of unity.
Even though it's been a long time coming, I would like to share the commitment of my team that we look forward to enjoying a cordial relationship, not only for the interests of the employees, but for those, for the trade union movement at large and those who have gone on long before us. I think this signing is a symbol of unity.
The grandson of the 84-year-old woman who was allegedly strangled to death says his grandmother was his rock and biggest supporter. Jared Higgs tells us that the man was at sea when he got word from neighbors that his beloved grandmother lay dead on the bedroom floor of her home.
A grieving Captain Keno Knowles tells Our News that the 84-year-old woman who was allegedly strangled to death is his grandmother, Pearl Lang.
She was a beautiful soul, strong woman. She's from Cat Island.
Knowles says he was at sea when he got a call from neighbors telling him his grandmother was dead. He video called one of the neighbors who entered the house while Lang's body still lay on her bedroom floor.
I don't know what to think, where to start. I just don't know. It's just unbelievable. I'm still trying to take it in. It feels like a big dream, but I don't know how to feel about that.
Police initially classified Lang's death as a sudden death, but an autopsy revealed strangulation marks on her neck.
I have a camera system around the house, so hopefully that should play a part in the investigation.
Our News interviewed Knowles at the home he shared with his grandmother on a side corner off Soldier Road. While there, he shows us where her body was found.
You can still see the dentures here. Yeah. So the body would have been laying right here on the floor.
The 32-year-old says he was especially close with his grandmother, who was like a second mother to him, and who supported him in many of his business endeavors. He described the Cat Island native as a strong woman, especially for her age, and said she spent her career working for various airlines, no doubt influencing his career path.
She would pick me up from school and I would go down to the airport with her and I would watch the planes take off, land. She would introduce me to the pilots for Bahamas here, and yeah, I really wanted to be a pilot.
Knowles is still coming to grips with his grandmother's death. As he rocks back and forth during our interview, he openly wonders what happened to her.
Maybe the autopsy may not be true. Maybe we could take a second one. Maybe it was an accident. I just would like to get to the bottom of it, while keeping a sane mind.
Police took Lang's 44-year-old son into custody on Saturday, and he's assisting them with their investigation. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. Well, a mix of weather conditions continue tonight. Greg Thompson, he's in the Weather Center with your first look. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Candino. Welcome, everybody, for our first look at weather on this warm Tuesday evening. Of course, the sun is setting kind of late, so temperatures are near the 80-degree mark, 78 outside our studios. Just a few clouds. Your winds out of the southeast at 8 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature very warm, 80 degrees. Satellite view, that moisture that was across the central and the northwest Bahamas is now actually covering most of the northwest Bahamas. Just to the north of New Providence, cloudy conditions across the northwest Bahamas, but a lot of sunshine, a lot of warm temperatures from the central Bahamas down towards the southeast, temperatures getting into the 80s. And of course, we are watching a low-pressure system taking shape across the Gulf of Mexico that should usher in a cold front sometime by Thursday. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
All right, still to come on Our News tonight, a new face at the helm of the University of the Bahamas. We'll tell you who. Plus, Stand Up Bahamas meets with the Port Authority over years of concerns. The outcome of today's meeting straight ahead. And later, the former health minister relives the moment the Bahamas recorded the first case of COVID-19. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Got size at 6'5".
Hi, this is Shamika.
As of this fall, the University of the Bahamas will have a new president at the helm. Following a months-long selection process, the newly chosen university chief comes with 30 years of experience, hailing from the University of California and California State University. Our Sasha Lightbourne was there as UB Board of Trustees made the announcement.
The board has selected as the next president Dr. Eric Rowland, an academic leader with 30 years of experience, who has successfully steered the process of accreditation at another higher education institution.
UB's Board of Trustees Chairman Allison Maynard Gibson made the announcement today to the media, explaining why Dr. Rowland was chosen.
The next president has the qualifications, experience, and skills to meet mission-critical objectives, namely, the knowledge, insights, and experience to achieve international accreditation, the vision and competence to implement sustainable financial and operational models for fundraising, and the capability to integrate 21st century technology modalities throughout the institution.
She said the selection of the new president comes at a seminal moment in the history of the institution as well as the country. There were 79 applicants for the post, which was narrowed down to a short list of semi-finalists. 3 emerged as front-runners, including Dr. Rowland, Sir Anthony Selden, and Dr. Ian Strawn. We asked Mrs. Maynard Gibson whether a Bahamian should fill the role. She answered this way.
We focused on the 3 candidates that were the finalists. We scrupulously examined the qualifications, examined the criteria that had been laid down by the university and community stakeholders, the profile that they wanted to have examined. And at the end of the day, Dr. Rowland was chosen.
Now, as for current UB President Dr. Rodney Smith, Mrs. Maynard Gibson told the media that his tenure will conclude on the 31st of July and that he has already told the board that he will support a seamless transition in leadership. Reporting for Our News, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
Meantime, President of the Union of Tertiary Educators of the Bahamas, Daniel Thompson, wasting no time responding to UB's announcement of newly selected President Dr. Eric Rowland. Thompson says while the union was a part of the process, its members are disappointed and concerned that a Bahamian was not chosen. Further, Thompson says the union believes the board should immediately allow Dr. Rodney Smith to go on leave until Dr. Rowland is ready to take up the new post.
Given the situation we're in, given we're about to celebrate our 50th anniversary as a nation, that you have a qualified Bahamian who has proven himself. Dr. Rowland, God bless him, has never been a president. He has experience within the North American culture and system. He has no experience of what the Bahamas is all about. Ian does. But notwithstanding, the board, in their wisdom, or perhaps lack of it, made the choice for Dr. Rowland.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, Grand Bahama residents meeting with the Port Authority today in what is described as a successful meeting. And later, the former health minister recalls the moment the Bahamas recorded its first COVID-19 case. We've got that and more coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5".
Hi, this is Salute.
Stand Up Bahamas group over in the nation's second city meeting with the Grand Bahama Port Authority today following a demand letter the group sent on March 4th addressing concerns of residents and members of the business community. In the letter, the group claims it has been suffering for years under the leadership of the Port Authority. Issues raised in that letter include what the group calls an abandonment of the International Bazaar, other derelict buildings throughout the city, subpar airport facilities, and the lack of new investment directly generated by the Port Authority, among other things. Group representatives Darren Cooper and C. Allen Johnson spoke with reporters after discussions with port executives and shareholders this afternoon and said they were encouraged.
We want to say to the residents of Grand Bahama that we are going to continue to keep their feet to the fire, but we're also saying to the government of the Bahamas to be on the guard and to also be on the lookout for the letter that we're sending in. And we think that this is the start of something new, but we are now going to be that body that's going to mend the relationship between the port and the government to make sure that both stakeholders work feverishly on behalf of the residents of Grand Bahama. And so we're looking forward to something great.
Especially those in the whole wide island of Grand Bahama, that we do believe there's nothing for you without you. So even as the Grand Bahama Port Authority goes out and they're listening, we as a collective will also begin to engage so we can get a wider perspective of Freeport and Grand Bahama as a whole, considering that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has responsibility for Freeport, but the government of the Bahamas has responsibility for Grand Bahama. And we think there's some sort of synergy that must occur in what we have to do as a collective to bring resolve to the issue that's facing all of us.
Port Authority President Ian Roll described talks as successful and promised the conversation with businessmen and the wider Freeport community will continue.
So we will rise to the occasion in regards to the request, and we promise the community to have more of these types of meetings. It was very, very fruitful. There are matters that came to our attention that we were not aware of. There were things that we are currently doing that the group were not aware of. And I think that all of us have agreed to work closely together to make Grand Bahama a better place. And that will include some other stakeholders.
And finally, in this segment, today marks the second anniversary since the first positive case of COVID-19 being recorded here in the Bahamas. Since that day in 2020, Bahamians, just as others across the world, have been forced to adjust to what has now been termed the new normal. In this report, Megan Shepherd explores our post-pandemic reality as the former health minister reflects on that moment in history.
News tonight. The Bahamas has its first confirmed case of novel coronavirus.
She would have been tested the following morning. There are batches for testing. As soon as we had the results available, that was just after midnight.
The news, while not shocking, signaled our entry into a global health crisis. Bahamians watched as the viral beast, the coronavirus, moved quickly from Wuhan, China, to every corner of the world. Then Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sand says our first confirmed case on March 15th was no surprise.
I would have said that it's not a matter of if, but when. It was pretty clear that we were going to be impacted by COVID. We just didn't know exactly when the first case would be recorded. There was a lot of hysteria around the world about COVID cases making it to the shores of various countries. And there was significant stigma attached to countries that had cases of COVID.
That first confirmed case of COVID triggered unprecedented changes, including a state of emergency that went on for a year and a half.
As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody could have fathomed the phenomenal impact on our economy, on our healthcare system, on the lives of ordinary Bahamians, on food security, etc. And so we decided to take it very, very seriously. And I believe that those initial emergency orders made a significant difference.
2 years later, and Dr. Sand says this viral beast has revealed the resilience of Bahamians, adding that he is proud of public servants and all people coming together.
When faced with a national tragedy or a national crisis, that almost without exceptions, Bahamians would come together in an incredible way. And that is certainly what I found as Minister of Health.
The Ministry of Health's dashboard started to track all facets of the virus, showing over 33,000 confirmed cases and 773 deaths since the first case was recorded. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepherd.
Thanks a lot, Megan. Well, that puts a wrap on this portion of the news, but when our news returns, Greg Thompson, he's back with your extended weather forecast.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
It's time now for your final look at weather. Greg Thompson, he's back in the Weather Center with the extended forecast. Greg?
Thanks again, Candina. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. That moisture across the northwest Bahamas keeping us partly cloudy for most of the day. Temperatures near the 80-degree mark. Central and southeast Bahamas seeing a lot more sunshine, so their temperatures are slightly warmer. But a low-pressure system in the Gulf of Mexico and across the southeastern United States taking shape right now. That's going to be ushering a cold front across the northwest Bahamas sometime on Thursday, but that will quickly swing towards the east and away from us. And then once again, high pressure will build in from the Gulf of Mexico. Should keep us a little cooler, but those winds expected to be on the breezy side once again for the balance of the weekend. Speaking of breezy conditions for the boaters for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight to tomorrow, southeast to southerly winds at 50 knots, seas running 3 to 5 feet over the ocean. Your high tide is at 7 p.m. tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, a caution flag in place for you guys down there. East to southeasterly wind flow at 15 to 20 knots, seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your Family Island weather and temperatures for tomorrow. A look now at your extended forecast through next Tuesday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening, everybody. Kendino.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg, and thank you for joining us. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kendino Knowles. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night, and until then, have a wonderful evening.